Look, we need to have a real heart-to-heart about that polymer frame sitting in your nightstand or locked in your steel safe right now. In the world of firearms, there's a massive difference between a tool you use and a legend you preserve. Most guys treat Glocks like hammers. They're reliable, they work, and you can find them at any hardware store. But if you've been paying attention to the market in 2026, you know that the plastic gun landscape has shifted. We're seeing vintage Gen 2s from the 1980s selling for more than a custom-built race gun. We're seeing specialized long slides become more valuable than some people's cars. And on the flip side, we're seeing people trade away absolute gems for the next shiny thing, only to realize they just handed over a piece of ballistic history. Today, we are taking you behind the firing line. We've curated a list of 9 specific Glocks, from the battle-worn duty icons and the elite competition monsters to that one select fire unicorn that shouldn't even exist. We're going deep into the metallurgy, the trigger geometry, and the cold hard numbers that separate a good deal from a forever gun. By the end of this video, you're going to know exactly which serial numbers to lock down and which ones to let go. This isn't just another countdown. This is your financial and tactical roadmap to the Glock ecosystem. Strap in. Number 9, Glock 17L. We are kicking things off with the crown jewel of any serious collection, the Glock 17L. Now, listen closely. If you find one of these in a pawn shop or a local gun store, do not walk away. You buy it. Period. The 17L was Glock's first real attempt to dominate the competition world, launched back in 1988. It was a bold statement showing that a polymer striker-fired pistol could go toe-to-toe with the high-end steel-framed race guns of that era. The heart of this beast is that massive 6.02-inch cold hammer forged barrel. When you pair that with the elongated slide, you get a sight radius that is absolutely massive. We're talking nearly 8 inches of distance between your front and rear sights. This virtually eliminates human error when lining up a shot at 25 or even 50 yards. Internally, the early 17L models often came with a lighter minus connector from the factory, giving you a crisp 4.5-pound trigger pull that is much smoother than your standard duty Glock. The slide itself is lightened with a massive cutout on the top to ensure that the extra length doesn't slow down the cycling speed. It's a delicate balance of weight and physics that Glock perfected decades ago. The recoil impulse on a 17L is unlike any other 9mm. Because of the slide weight and the long barrel, the muzzle flip is almost non-existent. It's a flat shooting machine that makes double taps feel like a single hole on the paper. And from a financial standpoint, it's a blue chip investment. We've seen these go for $3,000 plus in 2026 when the original Tupperware box and manual are included. Let's be real, you aren't concealing this thing unless you're wearing a trench coat. It's massive. Also, because of the lightened slide and long recoil spring assembly, some of the very early ported versions were known to be a bit picky with lower pressure target ammo. You'll want to run high quality 124 grain or 147 grain loads to keep the cycle reliable. But honestly, if you're complaining about concealability on a competition gun, you're missing the point. This is a safe queen that earns its keep every single day it stays in your possession. Number 8, Glock 20 Gen 4. If you spend any time in the backcountry, we're talking Alaska, the Rockies, or the deep woods of the Pacific Northwest, the Glock 20 Gen 4 isn't just a handgun, it's life insurance. This is the big bore powerhouse of the Glock lineup, chambered in the formidable 10mm auto. While most people are arguing over 9mm versus 45, the 10mm guys are busy stopping things that want to eat them. The Gen 420 is built on a large frame chassis to handle the significantly higher pressures of the 10mm cartridge. One of the most critical technical upgrades in the Gen 4 is the dual recoil spring assembly. The 10mm round generates a lot of kinetic energy, often exceeding 700 foot-pounds at the muzzle with the right loads. Without that dual spring setup, the slide velocity would be violent, causing excessive wear on the locking block and frame pins. This system effectively spreads that recoil impulse over a longer microsecond, making the gun surprisingly manageable. You also get the modular backstrap system, which is vital here because the grip on a large frame Glock is chunky. Being able to shave off a few millimeters of trigger reach can be the difference between a controlled shot and a Hail Mary when a brown bear is charging at 20 miles per hour. Versatility is king here. You have 15 plus 1 rounds of Magnum light power in a platform that functions exactly like your concealed carry Glock. It's duty grade reliable even in sub-zero temperatures. In terms of ballistics, with a heavy 200 grain hard cast load from makers like Buffalo Bore or Underwood, this pistol can achieve deep penetration through thick bone and muscle that would stop a 9mm cold. Ammo cost and availability. You aren't going to find high-performance 10mm hunting loads at your local big box retailer every day. Also, the recoil sensitive need not apply. Even with the dual spring system, it's a handful. If you don't have a firm master grip, you can induce limp wristing malfunctions, which is the last thing you want in a defensive situation. But if you can tame the beast, you'll never find a reason to let this gun go. Number 7, Glock 45. Don't let the name confuse you, this isn't a 45 ACP. The Glock 45 is a 9mm crossover that took the tactical world by storm. It's essentially the blacked out, refined evolution of the military's 19X, designed specifically for law enforcement officers who wanted the perfect balance of shootability and carryability. Technically, the 45 is a masterpiece of ergonomics. It combines the full-size grip frame of a Glock 17 with the compact slide and 4.02-inch barrel of a Glock 19. Why does this matter? Because the grip is where you actually control the gun. By having that full 17-round grip, you get maximum surface area for your support hand, allowing for incredible leverage during rapid fire. The shorter slide, however, makes the gun cycle faster. Physics tells us that a shorter, lighter slide has less reciprocating mass, which means the dip of the muzzle when the slide slams back into battery is minimized. It also features the Gen 5 front serrations and the Glock marksman barrel, which uses a modified polygonal rifling and a tighter crown to squeeze out every bit of mechanical accuracy possible. This is arguably the best shooting 9mm Glock ever made for duty use. It balances perfectly in the hand, not too nose heavy, not too light. It's fast out of the holster, fast on target, and gives you 17 rounds standard. It also includes the flared magwell of the Gen 5 series, making those blind reloads under stress much more forgiving. The printing factor. Since it uses the full-size 17 grip, it's much harder to hide under a light t-shirt than a standard 19. The grip is the part that sticks out and gives you away. If you're a smaller frame shooter looking for a deep concealment piece, this might be a bit too much gun to tuck inside the waistband. However, for home defense or OWB outside the waistband carry, it's nearly flawless. Number 6, Glock 40 7MOS. If you want to talk about the cutting edge of Glock's current engineering philosophy, you have to talk about the Glock 47 MOS. This isn't just another 9mm. It is the ultimate modular powerhouse. Originally developed as a proprietary model for the United States Customs and Border Protection, the CBP, it was finally released to the civilian market because the demand was simply too high to ignore. Technically, the 47 is a fascinating hybrid. It features a full-size Glock 17-length slide and barrel, but it is built on a frame that utilizes the shorter recoil spring assembly of the Glock 19. Why is that a game changer? It means the dust cover on the frame is shorter, allowing for parts modularity that we've never seen before from the factory. If you own a Glock 19 Gen 5, you can take the slide off your 19 and put it on this 47 frame to create a Glock 45 style setup. Or you can put this 47 slide on your 19 frame to create a long slide concealed carry piece. The barrel is a 4.49-inch marksman barrel, providing the same muzzle velocity and ballistic performance as the classic 17, but with the updated Gen 5 internal geometry. The MOS system, modular optics system, comes standard here, featuring a factory-milled slide that accepts various adapter plates for red dots like the Trigicon RMR or the Loophole Delta Point Pro. Glock also incorporated the flared magwell and the ambidextrous slide stop, making this a true southpaw-friendly duty weapon. Modularity is the standout pro here. It's essentially a Lego kit for Glock enthusiasts. If you're a guy who likes to tinker or wants one frame that can serve multiple roles from duty carry to home defense, this is it. It also offers a full 17+1 capacity, and because it uses the 19-length recoil system, the recoil impulse feels slightly snappier and faster than a traditional 17, which many high-speed shooters prefer for faster split times. For the purists, the shorter dust cover on a full-size slide can look a bit off aesthetically. More importantly, the MOS plates, while functional, are often criticized for sitting a bit high on the slide compared to a custom-milled job. If you want your red dot to co-witness perfectly with standard height iron sights, you're likely going to need to invest in aftermarket suppressor height sights. It's also a full-size footprint, so it's not something you're going to comfortably appendix carry unless you've got a very specific holster setup and a forgiving belt line. Number 5, Glock 19 Gen 5. If there is one handgun that defines the word standard in the 21st century, it is the Glock 19 Gen 5. This is the Swiss Army knife of the firearms world. It's small enough to hide, big enough to fight with, and reliable enough to bet your life on every single day. When the FBI moved away from the 40 caliber and back to the 9mm in 2016, they chose the M variant of this exact platform. Since then, it has become the gold standard for over 65% of American law enforcement agencies. The Gen 5 19 brought some massive internal and external changes that make it a superior technical tool compared to its predecessors. First, let's talk about the Glock marksman barrel. They moved away from the traditional polygonal rifling to a new design with a more aggressive crown and tighter bore tolerances, which significantly shrinks your groups at 25 yards. Inside the frame, they redesigned the entire trigger mechanism. Gone is the old leaf spring for the slide stop, replaced by a much more robust coil spring. The trigger pull itself is more linear. It doesn't have that wall and snap feel of the Gen 3. Instead, it's a smooth press from front to back, measuring around 5.5 pounds. The slide also features the NDLC finish, which is an ion-bonded coating that is virtually impervious to rust and extreme friction. Glock's own stress tests show these pistols can chew through over 50,000 rounds with nothing more than basic spring changes. The versatility is unmatched. It's the Goldilocks of Glocks, 4.02-inch barrel, 15-round capacity, and a size that fits nearly every hand. The removal of the finger grooves from the Gen 4 was a huge win, allowing shooters with different finger sizes to get a high, tight, master grip without being forced into a specific position. Plus, the ambidextrous slide stop makes it a dream for left-handed shooters. For some shooters with larger hands, the compact grip can lead to slide bite, where the reciprocating slide nicks the webbing of your hand. You'll likely want to install one of the included beaver tail backstraps to fix this. Also, while the factory polymer sights are functional, they are the first thing most shooters replace with steel night sights, as the plastic U-notch can be prone to shearing off if you're doing one-handed rack drills off a belt or a hard surface. Number 4, Glock 19X. This was Glock's entry into the U.S. Army's modular handgun system trials. Even though the military eventually went with the Sig Sauer M17, the 19X became an instant civilian hit, selling over 100,000 units in the first 6 months. It's the original crossover and arguably the most rugged Glock in the catalog. Technically, the 19X is a fascinating in-between generation gun. It uses a 19-size slide on a 17-size frame. This gives you a 17+1 round capacity, and it even ships with 2 19-round extended magazines from the factory. The standout feature is the NPVD coating. This isn't just paint. It's a physical vapor deposition coating that was designed to meet military salt spray and sand abrasion standards. It's incredibly slick and helps the gun cycle even when it's bone dry and covered in grit. Unlike the standard Gen 5, the 19X does not have a flared magwell. Instead, it has a lip on the front of the grip to prevent sand and debris from entering the action during combat. It also features a maritime spring cup system, which allows the firing pin to move freely even if there's water or heavy oil inside the firing pin channel, a must-have for extreme environments. The balance of this gun is perfection. Because you have the full 17 grip, the recoil management is effortless. While the shorter slide makes for an incredibly fast sight track, the front sight returns to your eye much faster than on a full-size 17. It also comes factory equipped with steel night sights, which is a major upgrade over the standard polymer sights found on most other Glocks. Modularity issues. Because of that lip on the front of the grip, the 19X cannot use standard Gen 5 17-round magazines without swapping the floor plates. You're largely stuck using the older Gen 4 style magazines or the specific 19X tan magazines. Also, it lacks the front serrations found on the newer Glock 45, which can make press checks a little harder if your hands are sweaty or covered in mud. Number 3, Glock 17 Gen 2. If you have a Glock 17 Gen 2 sitting in your safe, you aren't just holding a pistol, you're holding the founding father of the American polymer revolution. This was the gun that convinced the world that plastic could be tougher than steel. Produced between 1988 and 1998, it was the specific model that secured Glock's dominance in the U.S. law enforcement market, notably with the NYPD in 1993. Technically, the Gen 2 is a masterclass in less is more. It lacks the accessory rail and finger grooves of later generations, featuring a smooth dust cover and what we call the pebble grip texture on the side panels and a checkered texture on the front and back straps. Internally, the Gen 2 is incredibly simple. It uses a 2-pin system compared to the 3-pin system found in later Gen 3 and 4 models. The firing pin safety and the extractor are slightly different from modern versions, often featuring the old-style non-loaded chamber indicator extractor. The barrel is a 4.49-inch cold hammer forged tube with the original polygonal rifling that Glock became famous for. One of the most sought-after technical details is the Tupperware box and the original black follower drop-free magazines that came with it. If yours still has the hand-signed test target from the factory in Austria, you've hit the collector's jackpot. The ergonomics are actually preferred by many over the Gen 3 and Gen 4. Without the finger grooves, the grip feels more natural for a wider variety of hand sizes. it's also a blue chip investment. While you could buy these for $300 in the 90s, clean examples now fetch double or triple that on Gunbroker, especially if they have the original matching paperwork. The lack of a weapon light rail is a major technical drawback for a modern home defense gun. You can't easily mount a Surefire or a Streamlight without an aftermarket adapter that clamps onto the trigger guard, which is never ideal. Also, since it's a 30-year-old firearm, the original factory night sights are likely dead, the tritium has decayed, and the polymer can become slightly more brittle over decades if not stored properly. Number 2, Glock 34 Gen 5 MOS. If you have any aspirations of standing on a podium at a USPSA or IDPA match, the Glock 34 Gen 5 MOS is your ticket to the big leagues. This isn't just a long Glock, it is a purpose-built racing machine. While the 17 is a duty gun and the 19 is a carry gun, the 34 was born specifically to dominate the production and carry optics divisions. The technical heart of the 34 is its 5.31-inch marksman barrel. This extra length does two things. It pushes your muzzle velocity higher for better ballistic expansion, and it adds significant weight to the front of the gun. That weight acts as a natural counterbalance to muzzle flip. When that slide cycles, the reciprocating mass is balanced by the long bore geometry, keeping your dot or front sight tracked on target through the entire recoil stage. The Gen 5 34 moved away from the window cut on top of the slide that was famous on the Gen 3 and 4 models. Why? Because the new Gen 5 slide geometry and the lighter NDLC finish allowed Glock to achieve the perfect cycling weight without needing a hole in the slide to let dirt in. It also features the upgraded Gen 5 trigger, which, when paired with the longer frame, feels exceptionally light and crisp. The MOS system here is crucial, as most shooters today are running high-end competition dots like the Trijicon SRO or the Loophole Delta Point Pro to take advantage of that flat shooting platform. It turns average shooters into good ones. The longer sight radius and the sheer stability of the platform make it very forgiving. It's also surprisingly versatile. Many tactical units, including some SWAT teams, prefer the 34 for the extra velocity and accuracy it provides in standoff situations. It's a full-sized plus footprint. Carrying this inside the waistband is a chore, and you'll definitely feel the length when you sit down. Also, the factory adjustable rear sights, while great for the range, are made of polymer and can be easily bumped out of alignment. If you're using this for anything other than a ranged toy, you'll want to swap those for high-quality steel irons immediately. Number 1, Glock 18C. Now, I'm going to be straight with you. Unless you are a Class 3 dealer with an SOT, a high-level government contractor, or you're watching this from a military armory, you probably can't own this. But if you are one of the few who has a legal post sample, or you're an agency armor, selling this would be an absolute sin. This is the only select fire pistol Glock has ever produced. Technically, the 18C is a marvel of simplicity and violence. It's essentially a 17 frame, but with a rotary sear selector switch on the back left of the slide. Flip that switch down, and you're looking at a cyclic rate of fire of approximately 1,200 rounds per minute. That's 20 rounds a second. The C stands for compensated. Because a full auto 9mm pistol is notoriously difficult to control, Glock cut massive ports into the barrel and a matching window in the slide. As the pressurized gases follow the bullet, they are vented upward, creating a literal jet engine effect that pushes the muzzle down to counteract the massive climb of full auto fire. Internally, almost every part, the slide, the frame, the trigger bar is slightly different from a standard 17 to prevent people from garage engineering a semi-auto into a full auto. It is a proprietary purpose-built machine. It is the ultimate force multiplier in a subcompact package. In the hands of a trained professional, it can suppress an entire hallway in seconds. From a collector's standpoint, it is the most famous Glock ever made. It's the V12 of the handgun world. Practicality is near zero for the average person. At 1,200 rounds per minute, you will empty a standard magazine in less than 2 seconds. The heat buildup is immense. You can literally melt the polymer frame if you do enough consecutive mag dumps. It's also incredibly difficult to shoot accurately in full auto without a shoulder stock. But let's be honest, no one buys an 18C for practicality. You own it because it's the baddest polymer pistol on the planet. Now, let's pivot to the darker side of the polymer world. Not every Glock that leaves the factory in Austria is a home run. Some look incredible in the marketing photos, but turn into a massive headache the second you put a magazine through them. If you've got one of these three sitting in your collection, you're likely fighting a losing battle with physics, reliability, or simply an outdated design. These are the 3 Glocks you will regret owning in 2026. Number 3, Glock 36. A gun that was a revolution in the year 2000. But today, it's a relic. The Glock 36 was the first real attempt at a slimline 45 ACP carry pistol. It promised big bore power in a single stack frame. The engineering flaw here is the balance of mass. The 36 features a slim, lightweight slide and a subcompact frame with a 3.78-inch barrel. When you ignite a 45 ACP round in a platform this light, physics is not on your side. The recoil impulse is sharp and erratic, much more so than the larger Glock 30. Because the grip is so thin, there is less surface area for your palms to absorb that energy, leading to massive muzzle flip that makes fast follow-up shots nearly impossible for most shooters. It's thin. For a 45 caliber pistol, it disappears under a shirt quite easily. You're looking at only 6+1 rounds. In a world where the Glock 43X or even the 48 can give you 15 rounds of high-velocity 9mm in a similar footprint, carrying 6 rounds of 45 that tries to jump out of your hand just doesn't make tactical sense anymore. Most owners end up trading these in after their first high round count training class because their wrists simply can't take the abuse. Number 2, Glock 42. When this hit the market, it was the smallest Glock ever made, chambered in 380 ACP. People lined up around the block for it, but the regret usually sets in about 3 months later. The 42 is a locked breech pistol, which makes it softer shooting than other blowback 380 pistols, but it still suffers from a major identity crisis. The ballistics of the 380 ACP, often called 9mm short, are significantly inferior to the standard 9mm Parabellum, especially when fired from a short 3.25-inch barrel. FBI ballistic gel tests show that 380 often fails to achieve the required penetration when passing through heavy clothing or barriers. It is exceptionally soft shooting for its size. For shooters with extreme recoil sensitivity or hand strength issues, it's a very easy gun to cycle. The Glock 42 is almost the exact same size as the Glock 43, which is chambered in the much more powerful 9mm. Why carry a weaker round in a gun that takes up the same amount of space? Plus, in 2026, 380 ammo remains more expensive and harder to find than 9mm. It's a niche tool that has been completely outclassed by the modern slimline 9mm revolution. Number 1, Glock 44. On paper, it's the perfect trainer, a 22 LR rimfire built on a Glock 19 frame. But on the range, it's a different story. The issue here is the inherent nature of rimfire ammunition. 22 LR is dirty, inconsistent, and was never designed for the tight tolerances of a modern defensive-style handgun. To make the gun cycle with such a weak round, Glock had to use a hybrid steel and polymer slide to keep the reciprocating mass extremely low. This gives the gun a toy-like feel that doesn't hold up well under high-volume fire. We see constant reports of failure to extract and failure to feed malfunctions, often caused by the delicate geometry of the 22 LR casing. It fits in your Glock 19 holsters and uses the same controls, making it a cheap way to practice your draw and presentation. Reliability is a nightmare. A training tool is only useful if it runs, and the 44 is notorious for being ammo picky. If you aren't running high-velocity premium rimfire loads, you're going to spend more time clearing malfunctions than actually shooting. Most guys buy this to save money on ammo, but after the 10th stovepipe jam of the afternoon, they realize they should have just bought a 22 caliber conversion kit for their real Glock 19 or stuck to dry fire practice. Don't get caught in the hype. Some Glocks are meant for the safe, some are meant for the holster, and these three, they're usually meant for the used rack at your local gun store. Whether you're a high-speed competition shooter looking for that perfect split time with a 34, or a backcountry hiker counting on 10mm hardcast lead to keep you at the top of the food chain, you now have the blueprint. But here's the deal. A gun in a safe is just an investment. A gun on the range is a lifestyle. I want to hear from the community down in the comments, which one of these 9 are you taking to the grave? Did I miss that one specific rare ported model that you've been hunting for a decade? Or do you think the 18C is just a pipe dream? Drop your thoughts below. We read every single one of them. If this deep dive gave you some value today, do us a favor, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. We're out here every week putting lead on steel and bringing you the technical truth that the big manufacturers don't always want you to hear. Don't be the guy who sells his 17L today and regrets it for the next 20 years. Knowledge is power, but a fast draw is better. Stay safe, stay lethal, and as always, stay sharp.